Sanders declined to answer the question, but it has followed her and members of the Trump administration as they have struggled to gain control of the latest controversy to engulf the White House, a humanitarian crisis of their own making. Outside the White House, the outcry over the policy has been deafening, and moral outrage has poured in from all corners, including in essays by two former White House residents who had been reluctant to criticize Trump publicly. Imagine if you'd been born in a country where you grew up fearing for your life, and eventually the lives of your children, Obama wrote. A place where you finally found yourself so desperate to flee persecution, violence, and suffering that you'd be willing to travel thousands of miles under cover of darkness, enduring dangerous conditions, propelled forward by that very human impulse to create for our kids a better life. For much of the week, Trump tried desperately to shift blame for his administration's controversial policy to Democrats, while others in his administration threw up a variety of confusing, misleading, and sometimes contradictory explanations and defenses. "I'll say it very honestly. I'll say it very straight," Trump said in an address to the National Space Council at the White House on Monday. "It's the Democrats' fault." In a tweet sent Tuesday, Trump referred to illegal immigration with a word infest that reminded many observers of how Nazis called Jews vermin. "Democrats are the problem," Trump tweeted. "They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country." On Tuesday, Trump said that his administration had no choice but to separate children from parents who cross the U.S. border illegally before essentially admitting it does. In the next breath, though, Trump essentially admitted he did have a choice. "You don't have to prosecute them, but then we're not prosecuting them for coming in illegally," he said. "That's not good." But by Wednesday, the images of children being separated from their parents became too much even for Trump, who reversed course and signed an executive order to end the family separations. "I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated," Trump said. "So we're keeping families together." The president seemed to suggest he had heard complaints about the policy from two women in his life. "Ivanka feels very strongly. My wife feels very strongly about it," he said. "I feel very strongly about it. I think anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it." But Trump also explained the moral dilemma facing him and hinted, rather tellingly, that he would not have reversed course if it were up to him. Speaking of imagery, Time magazine on Thursday released a striking cover depicting a towering Trump looking down at a crying immigrant child. On Friday, Sanders released a statement complaining about the cover. "It's shameful that Dems and the media exploited this photo of a little girl to push their agenda," Sanders tweeted. "We cannot allow our country to be overrun by illegal immigrants as the Democrats tell their phony stories of sadness and grief, hoping it will help them in the elections," Trump tweeted. Earlier in the week, right-wing provocateur Ann Coulter claimed child actors were being used to sway public opinion. "These child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now," Coulter said on Fox News before turning to the camera. "Do not fall for it, Mr. President." Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen began her week pushing back against mounting criticism and denying that there was a policy of taking children away from their parents. "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border," she tweeted on Sunday night. Period. "We do not have the luxury of pretending that all individuals coming to this country as a family unit are, in fact, a family," Nielsen said. "This administration has a simple message: if you cross the border illegally, we will prosecute you." Nielsen was summoned back to the White House the same day by Sanders to brief reporters, calling it offensive to imply that the administration had a policy of separating parents from children at the border, even though it was the stated purpose of the controversial change in enforcement procedures put in place by the Trump administration. Nielsen also said she was unfamiliar with photos, released by her own department, of hundreds of children in cages in one Texas facility. On Tuesday night, Nielsen was heckled by protesters as she dined at a Washington, D.C., Mexican restaurant. On Sunday, Stephanie Grisham, Melania Trump's spokeswoman, issued a statement calling for the end of family separations that suggested she was sympathetic to the plight of immigrant children. She believes we need to be a country that follows all laws, but also a country that governs with heart, the statement read. And on Thursday, Melania Trump made an unannounced visit to an immigrant child detention center in Texas. I asked if there was empathy, CNN's Karam tweeted Friday. Like it or not, the answer seems to be, I really don't care.